Okay, now it's preparing to live stream.
Okay. All right, so we're calling this meeting to order at 3:03 p.m. And as usual, I will read a land acknowledgement into the record. The Altadena Library District acknowledges its presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples. Altadena is located on the stolen homelands of the Pahamunga tribal band. The traditional territory of the Gabrielino Tongva is referred to as Tongvangar, which includes the areas currently known as Los Angeles County, Riverside County, West San Bernardino County, parts of Orange County, as well as the 4 Southern Channel Islands. Entities such as the U.S. government and non-native settlers have subjected the Gabrielino Tongva peoples to historic and continuing injustices, including genocide, forced displacement, and cultural and linguistic erasure. Altadena Library commits to learning, educating, and informing its staff and residents of the present-day Altadena about the rich histories, vibrant communities, and culture of the Gabrielino Tongva people, present and past, through our collection development, resources, and program offerings. So with that, we will get started. And the first thing I'd like to do a quick roll call. Trustee Cervantes. And your mic is off, Rushmore. You're muted.
That would help here. Sorry.
Member Lyford.
Here.
Member Kenny.
Here.
Trustee Andrews is here. So thank you everyone for making this a quorum. First thing we'll start, is there any reordering of the agenda items? It's not a long agenda today. And if not, I will go ahead and seek an approval to a motion to approve the minutes. Now it says a regular meeting held June 21st. And by my calendar, we met on the 8th. I don't see anything for the 21st. Was that a small typo, do you think, Catalina?
I'm sorry, Terry, what was that?
It's the last time I have us meeting was on June the 8th, but the consent calendar is for the approval of minutes for the regular meeting held June 21st.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, that is a typo.
Okay, so we should probably change that on the record when everything's said and done. So can I get a motion to approve the meetings from June 8th, 2022?
I think you want to, get a motion to adopt the agenda first, and then we'll go into the consent calendar.
A motion for what, Rushmore? Sorry.
You want a motion to adopt.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you know better than me. So can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
There's a
Second.
There you go.
All right, we'll do a quick roll call again, verbally. Trustee Cervantes.
Aye.
Member Kenny.
Aye.
Member Lyford.
Aye.
It's an aye for Terry Andrews as well. Okay, now on to the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting held on the 8th of June, 2022. Can I get a motion for that?
I'll move.
Second?
Second.
Okay, again, a verbal roll call.
Second.
Trustee Cervantes.
Aye.
Trustee or Member Kenny.
Aye.
Member Lyford.
Aye.
That's an aye vote for me, Terry Andrews. All right, we have no unfinished business, but we do have some brief new business to talk about. And the first thing is going to be informational. And Nikki, I'll let you take over with an introduction on this one.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you all. So I asked our municipal advisor, Doug Anderson from Urban Futures, to put together a brief report just summarizing where we're at in terms of the bond proceeds. So he is here. I'll turn it over to him and we can answer any questions you might have after that.
Great. Thanks, Nikki, and good afternoon. As you know, we've sold bonds for the construction project. Reminder that when the bonds were sold, we had a net bond proceeds amount of about $22.9 million. We also put the bulk of that into some investments that the trustee bank had helped us coordinate. Because of those investments, since the bond issuance and through August 31st, an additional 47,000, almost 50,000 has been put, or excuse me, 48,000 has been put back into the bond fund as well. We have had expenditures, and we have a detailed list of those. Went through all the trustee reports since the bonds were issued. Expenditures to date, or through August 31st rather, 504,000. So after all of that, the project fund is down to about 22,482,000. We included a list of the payees. The district itself shows up as the largest payee, and that was because when the bonds were issued back in spring, there were costs that had been incurred that our bond counsel allowed us to reimburse the district for. So that's the reason that they show up at the top. Obviously, other expenditures are for architects and surveyors and various different groups that are starting to get the project started. Nikki and I talked earlier. I know we're probably not on the estimated construction schedule that Rackland Partners came up with to begin with, but the general goal and what the district actually asserted that they would do when they sold the bonds was to expend at least 85% of the proceeds within 3 years from bond issuance. And I think even with delays in getting started, I think we're still fine with that target date. There's no expenditure police that come out, and nothing really happens if you don't get to that point. But where it might come up is if years down the road you want to issue more bonds, attorneys might ask, well, how fast did you spend those? There might be some consequences at that time, but not really a big issue. But again, I think you're fine and you seem to be on track with this. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Doug, just a quick question. So spent 85% has to be spent within 3 years of what date? November?
So that would be when we issued our bonds back in March 3rd. So we're talking about March 3rd, 2025. And by expenditures, we can take that to mean obligated. So as long as you have contracts,
yeah, okay,
yeah, that will cover it. So you don't need actually have written checks for that amount by that date.
That's what I thought.
As long as it's obligated.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
And I did talk to the facilities committee about it this morning. Our most updated timeline, it is looking like the main library would be finished around May of 2025, which we all know that's probably could be pushed out, but we're in really good shape to have all of the money that we need to have spent by that time based on our current timeline.
Thank you.
Kim, you have a question?
I've probably asked this before and I apologize. So the construction costs that we see under fiscal year 22 and July 22, just remind me what those might be that we are categorizing that way.
Are you looking at the list that we put in the staff report? Or?
Sorry, there's a page, am I looking at the wrong thing? It's the capital fund report that's right after the staff report. I thought it was part of it, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, so the way, it's following your report, Doug. We have page 8 on our package if you want to look on the website, but the capital fund, it's going to show the proceeds as well as, the interest income that we gain or loss. And then the costs are broken down between the administrative costs and then the direct renovation costs.
So I get the project management and the architects. I just wasn't sure what kinds of things we might be characterizing as construction costs.
Oh. That is a good question. Because project management is Rackland, architect expenses are for the architect. So what I would have to assume, and I could have our accountants look at it, but the only other thing we've really spent money on is the studies that we've done on the buildings. So I believe that's probably been billed to construction costs, like we did hazardous materials, the seismic study.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I believe that's what we've spent that money on so far, but otherwise it's all been project management and architectural.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Quick note to follow up. My projection of what you have available to spend is a little bit higher than what the trustee shows. And I made reference to that in the report. The trustee is obligated, as most financial reporting is, to show you the current market value of your investments. If we bought the investments 3 or 4 months ago, rates have gone up since then, the market value of those investments has gone down a bit. However, you're going to hold all those till maturity, so we don't really care about the month-to-month fluctuations of the market value. You'll get the full principal amount back when each of those individual maturities mature, so we're not really concerned about that.
Yeah, and I will point out also that we were notified on September 16th that, or no, it was like the 12th, that we were awarded $7.5 million from the state through a grant that we applied for. So the proceeds, or the capital fund, is going to go up over 30 million once we get that money. Or I don't know exactly how if they're going to reimburse us as we spend, because we have to match it dollar for dollar. But we do have an additional 7.5 that's going into the project fund as well. Hooray.
Yeah, that's good, Nikki. And that's really a part of the Build Back Better program by the federal government, right?
Yeah, it's the Building Forward Infrastructure Grant through the California State Library.
Doug, at our last trustee meeting, a couple of questions, one of which you've already answered, came up. The idea about how long do we have to spend the money, and from what I'm hearing from you is 85% has to meet at least an obligation for that amount by the May of 2025, which seems easily done. But one thing that's happening too is that, and I'm sure you're aware of this, you're probably at those meetings, I haven't been as much, is that we've got conditional use permits and so on that are going to add a year or so onto the start, or at least any meaningful start for that building project. Is everybody in contact with you? I mean, are you feeling okay about that kind of timing, or any comments on that?
So the next agenda item is to kind of do a building projects update. So I don't know if you want me to start that, but I'm sort of covering that a little bit in there.
Okay. I'm going to make sure that we covered it for Jason, because he asked a question at that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Are any more questions? All right. Nikki, I'll let you proceed then.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doug. Really appreciate all your help keeping us on track.
Certainly. Okay.
All right. So do we want to pull the slides up that are in the agenda package, or do you all?
Just share your screen with the PowerPoint, so
Sure.
all the people at home that are watching on YouTube can watch.
Yeah, our many viewers, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so let me pull that up. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a really quick overview of where we're at in terms of the building projects. We wanted to report back to the CFD committee on how those bond proceeds are being spent currently. And thank you for the question, Kim, around what has been spent so far. Most of it is just design development. So we did take, and some of this, we did take the Bob Lucas design documents to the Library Board of Trustees at their meeting last week on Tuesday. The reason for that is we needed to finalize the design in order to keep the CUP, which is a conditional use permit process, moving forward with LA County. We discovered that because we're adding almost 1,000 square feet to the building, which is currently 1,800 feet or square feet, that it prompted the CUP process through the county. And that gets triggered, whether it's like even anything over 10% will trigger that process. So it wasn't like if we cut down a little bit, it would have made a difference, because we're almost adding another 50% to the square footage. The process typically takes from 6 to 12 months. So we got all of the paperwork that we needed filed with the county pretty much back in like August, and we continue working through the county. But they did let us know that like we cannot change these initial design documents, or it will start the whole process over again. So not only did we meet with our community focus group to get their feedback, make sure that they were still good with this design, that we actually showed them back in the end of March when we did a community town hall meeting as well. But then there was a joint census tract meeting of the town council here at the library on September 17th, where we also presented the documents to it was about 50 community members that attended and sought their feedback and questions. So we feel really good about the fact that the board voted to approve, and we're going to keep that process moving forward. We have been working with Supervisor Barger's office, who's connected us with some great people in the planning office with the county. So we're feeling pretty confident that it's going to be closer to like the 6-month mark. And it really hasn't changed our timeline of the building projects too much, because we figured it was going to take that amount of time to continue with the design process. And actually this morning in the facilities committee meeting, we were talking about starting the process of looking for a contractor as well, because that can also take months. So again, everything's looking good in terms of timeline. Just really general timeline right now is if the Bob Lucas project starts in approximately 6 months, so we're looking at like March or April of 2023, they're estimating that project to take about a year. And then when that building grand reopens in hopefully early 2024 is when the main library project would begin. So we'll have that full year to finalize the documents and architecture and all of that, construction documents. And then the estimate for the main library is around 18 months. I think it'll probably be closer to 2 years based on everything I've seen with construction. So we're looking at hopefully the building being finished sometime in 2025, early 26. And actually the district will be 100 years old. We were established as a special district in 1926. So who knows, maybe the grand reopening of the main library and our 100th anniversary will be one big massive party. We'll see. So another thing that we're continuing to do is asking for community feedback through our survey on our website. So I'm going to keep going. So some of the design highlights of the Bob Lucas design, and by the way, this drawing you see in this first slide is what the schematic or the design looks like from the front view of the building. This will be like an overview. And as you can see over here with my arrow, this will be the addition that's going to be the designated literacy center for the library. Right now, it's just kind of like right in the middle off to the side. This would have its own designated space for the literacy, as well as like study rooms or meeting rooms when it's not being used for that purpose. The other major addition is right up here. And that's the plan is for with this additional 1,000 square feet. So that literacy center over here. And then this would be like a designated children's area, which we don't currently have at the Bob Lucas Ranch, with these big windows up front. So people can are attracted to the building as they're driving by, as well as see in to the library as to what's going on. We're also looking to do roof replacement and upgrades to electrical and mechanical systems, as well as I mentioned of that designated children's reading room. Of course, making sure accessibility is first and foremost in our minds in both buildings, as well as an expanded demonstration garden along Lincoln Avenue. This schematic doesn't show it, but as you know, we have the native garden, regenerative gardening in front and behind the Bob Lucas Library. So that will be maintained and actually expanded out farther. And then in addition to this addition right here, we'll also have a reading. So like this overhang right here is going to be an outdoor reading port area as well, with seating, trellis, and fountains. Let's see. So again, if you want to look at, we have the full design documents on our website at altadena-library.org/next-chapter. And again, if you know of anyone that wants to provide community feedback to us, our survey is still live. We're looking for people to let us know their thoughts and feelings about both building projects. So again, share that out with anybody you know that would be interested in giving us feedback. Any questions about the Bob Lucas design or project? Oh, okay. And then just real quick, general. So this second, this was a slide.
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
quick
Go ahead.
question.
Sure.
So, the Bob Lucas, I assume, will be completely closed. Is that true for just a year, or do you think it'll be a little bit more? Is there like demo?
From everything the architects have indicated, they think it'll take a year.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep. And I will throw out there, we're still looking for an alternate site, not for the Bob Lucas branch, but for when Main Library is closed. I'm working with a local realtor. Commercial rentals are not kind of in our price range. So right now we're actually trying to talk to PUSD or other organization that could potentially offer us some space. So I'm going to throw that out there in case you have any ideas or thoughts. Please reach out to me because again, you know, we do have at least, I would say, a year and a half before Main closes, but the more ducks we have in a row, the better in terms of like what we're going to be able to offer while the Main library is closed. So first bullet point, our special tax is going to appear on the property tax bill of all Altadena property owners this month. So in the event that someone has questions that you live next to or whatever, feel free to refer them to me. I'm happy to answer their questions by phone or email. But again, this is the first time they're going to see it. Just so all of you are aware, it's the rate this year because it's not including the service and operational funding that will down the road replace Measure A. It's about 5 cents per square foot for single family homes. So property owners will see not only the Measure A parcel tax, but also it's going to show up as the Altadena Library District special tax lien. So again, if people have questions, please refer them to me. We did send a mailer out to all property owners back in April, just so everyone was aware that this was coming, and also how they could file for exemptions to it based on low income. So again, it might pop up as people start getting their property bill. So we did hear back from the California State Library, as I mentioned, and very happy to report we have an additional 7.5 million. That money has to specifically be spent on infrastructure upgrades. So it's going to fund things like replacing the roof and HVAC, our ADA compliance and accessibility issues, the seismic upgrades or something else that can be included. So we definitely have over $7 million in infrastructure upgrades, but it's really great that we got that funding from the state. So it definitely made our facilities committee meetings much lighter now that we know. Because for a while there, we pretty much put the Main library design process on hold, because based on the cost estimates that our architects did back earlier this year, we were already coming in $5 million short to do everything that we were hoping to do at the Main library because of the crazy escalation in construction costs. So now that we know we have the money, and part of that was we didn't want to like present potential options that we wouldn't be able to fulfill to the community focus group or the community as a whole. So now it's a little bit of the sky is the limit, which is a much more fun way to approach a building project, I think. So again, if anyone has questions, I'm more than happy. I do take calls pretty much every week about the special tax lien. It's typically related to real estate transactions, but again, happy to field any of those that come in. And happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Nikki, I should know this, but I don't, and we talked about this before, but going back to a temporary facility, who occupies the old Altadena Library building on Lake? I'm sure it's fairly common, I just don't know.
I don't know either, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I bet Jonathan does. I'd have to ask him.
yeah, I was doing some research. I couldn't quite figure it out. I saw a trust, but I don't know. I can't quite figure out who's there. I haven't done extensive research, but it's not utilized from what I gather. Or
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, maybe it could be our alternate library for a little while.
yeah.
Yeah, good suggestion. Thank you.
What type of services will you be offering in the alternate location? Obviously, it's going to have to be scaled back, but
It would just be, yeah, scaled back services where like we'd have more of the just really popular collections that people could come in and browse and check out. I would assume, depending on how much space we have, a limited area for like computer and internet usage. We do check out laptops and hotspots, so thankfully we have that as an alternate if we don't have space to offer like technology. But that would definitely be something we'd want to offer if we possibly could. We also want to have some space for staff to be able to like work. But again, we're in the process of buying another van. So we're really hoping to expand the footprint and be out in the community a lot more between both vans at the time as well. In addition to that, Chris Holden was able to get us $250,000 last year, and we're about to do an RFP to purchase some library material vending machines. So I'm working on identifying locations to put those, hopefully not too close to the existing libraries, because I, again, want to keep those there even after the projects are completed, where people would have 24/7 access to being able to return, place on hold, or check out items from those machines as well. So really trying to focus on getting out into the community more. Oh, looks like Terry fell off, huh? But yeah, great question. Thank you.
Yeah, he did follow up, didn't he?
I wait for him to come back, huh?
Yeah, let's wait a minute.
Oh, here he comes. Yeah, this is when I feel like the projects are really getting fun. Up until now, it's been a lot of paperwork and hiring and all of that. So
Well, it's nice because we have all that cash in hand. We can actually afford to pay for the things you've envisioned for years.
yeah, super fun.
Terry. Thank you, sir.
I see him. Well, his square, rectangle.
I have a question. I was thinking, what about the Davies building in Farnsworth Park? Could that be an alternate location?
We haven't looked into that one. I'm not sure why.
I mean, it's pretty far up the hill, but there are a lot of people that use that park for all sorts of things.
I feel like I talked to Susie Niemer from Supervisor Barger's office about it, and I'm feeling like it's not a possibility, because even like the community center, when I raised that, it's like that's designated for town council, historical, and what other group? Chamber. So there's not space there either. I have actually met with Liliana from the senior center next door, and we're potentially going to use a room or two over there, but that would just be like not the alternate site we would need, but potentially like another little space that we could, well, I'm really hoping to get passport services over there so they can continue offering appointments right next to the building.
Yeah.
But they may have a room, they're about to do a little bit of renovating upstairs that we could have like a small library, satellite library in. But again, yeah, we've already been working on this for like 6 months. So I'm glad we got started really early. Terry said he's having trouble with Zoom. So I'm not sure.
Hey, Terry, maybe you want to just call in?
I'll text him that too. He said yes. So we'll be doing that. Catalina just sent him the dial-in numbers, so hopefully he'll fall right in.
All right. Kim, good luck on the 8th.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It keeps coming faster and faster. Can't believe it's October already.
Crazy.
Wow. At least you're not spending the kind of money that Rick Caruso is in LA.
That's true. TV commercials are out of my league.
Yeah, I think Jared said he spent 62 million or something, or 26 million.
Yeah, I think he spent 40 for that got him to the runoff, and then he committed, I think, another 25 to 26 million dollars. You know, he's the outsider looking in because I mean he's Republican turned Democrat and going against Karen Bass, who represents the machinery all the way up to the White House and back. Be interesting to see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious in looking up who might own the previous or the original library property. And the last time it shows up as sold is like 1975. So it's a private owner,
Right.
just not listed. Yeah. I think they've converted it into a home.
Wow.
Did they really? I didn't realize anyone was living there. I know that the people set up everywhere.
Or they just, yeah, they may just have just own the property, but they haven't done anything with it. Because I know the sign is still out there.
Right. That would be the coolest thing to be able to return to the original library on Lake, you know, during the renovation period. What do you think, Nikki? Should we just go ahead and start the conversation, or what are your thoughts as far as?
I'm feeling like we should probably just keep going. Yeah.
All right, so we're done with B then.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, so Amy and Kim, you know, we've been just kicking around, you know, what the CFD committee should look like on a go-forward basis. The committee as a whole served an integral role, pivotal role relative to ensuring that the district went through all the necessary protocols to establish the team to move forward with the bond issuance and making sure that we've got the appropriate oversight, all of the key players involved, 7 to 8 different RFPs that Nikki and the team prepared, and we obviously oversaw and moved forward. And as you can tell now, as you know, we're kind of winding down, we have the cash in hand. Whereas we very much appreciate having the community members involved. We're also cognizant of the fact this is your personal time, and we don't want to have meetings just to have meetings so we can see each other. We could do that on the side if we wanted to. So the question really kind of we wanted to kick around is like, certainly Terry and ourselves, well, what are we going to have as far as agenda items in the future for this committee, and what is the frequency? At the very least, we may go to keep a quarterly basis schedule and then cancel if necessary, but we don't foresee a lot of substantive conversations in the future. So we wanted to throw this out there and not be just as a decision, but it's more of a conversation, because I don't know that I don't want to waste anyone's time if there's really nothing substantive to talk about. So that's what Terry and I were hoping to kind of pick your brains, and just knowing that we don't foresee much in the way of topics coming up that are of interest, and perhaps having the community aspect of this committee phased out. Again, with all due respect to what you've done and what you could potentially do in the future, there's just very little substantive information or decisions to be made. So I kind of throw that to both of you, Amy and Kim, and see what your thoughts are on that.
Well, one thought I have is that the only thing I can think of is there might be some interest in maintaining, a link with a community member, possibly someone on the town council, in case there were any, any ramifications for the building and the cost of construction. I mean, the inflation is very high right now. So if there were some reason to have a community member give input on any kind of financial implications to the building projects as we go forward, because of things like the incredible inflation rate and the cost of materials, that's the only reason I can envision us continuing in this particular way.
Right.
Were there to be an interest in having community input on the financial obligation piece, which was really the focus of this committee, the CFD.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate that, Amy. And Terry, sorry, in your absence, we weren't sure just how long you were going to be out. So I told them that you didn't want the community members involved anymore. You didn't like them, and that you've had it up to your eyeballs, and just let's got to end this relationship.
Okay, good. I'm glad you got that all correct.
Yeah, I set the record straight while you were out. No, I laid out the framework as, we're kind of at this point where we're trying to decide, where does this committee go as a whole? And obviously, as trustees, we have a role, but thank our community members for all the work they did to this point. But on a go-forward basis, there really isn't any substantive decision making that needs to be made in the foreseeable future. And if and Amy, you brought up a good point as far as potential reporting out, and the costs are primarily going to be overseen by the facilities committee. We are just on the expenditure. Once they hand over the expenditures to us, then we pretty much just make sure that all the I's were dotted, T's were crossed, and we have to process it. We don't get into the specific weeds as far as why, a specific line item and the construction budget went up. We just don't get into that. But there's room for, there's a lot of obviously community meetings and opportunities for others to hear what's going on. And as this committee goes forward, as infrequently as it may meet in the future, we could certainly report that out. It's definitely something we could do. Kim, you have some thoughts?
Well, I guess some of this, I guess what I'm wondering is how often will the CFD will continue, true? And I guess the question is, what types of things would you be talking about? Do you see it actually meeting even less frequently than quarterly?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we talked about, and I don't mean to put words in Terry's mouth because he's having some audio visual problems right now, but we talked about at least having a placeholder on a quarterly basis, but just for a placeholder, but realizing probably the likelihood would be maybe once or maybe twice a year at most. And I don't really foresee much of a reason to meet. And Nikki, I'm not sure if you have anything to add as far as what you anticipate things that this committee would be looking at.
I could see during the budget prep process meeting with the CFD to cover like what the rate is going to be set at, to run that through this group as like an advisory to the full board, in addition to it going to the budget committee as well. So that's one thing I could see getting on the schedule, because again, once we set that rate, that's what the bond proceeds are going to come back in. And typically what that means is, what's the debt service going to be? What is the administrative cost to oversee the bond proceeds? And that's the number. But I think that's going to be one of the bigger functions. Other than that, it's just going to be like an update on the finances in terms of what we've spent, what it's been spent on, just so that it's like a really transparent process of how the bond proceeds are being, expended.
I guess that's what I would say is if there are things that we think might be of interest to the public, and even though there hasn't been a lot of public attendance at these meetings, I think it's been a lot of behind the scenes, if you will. So once there's actual construction happening, once people are seeing this on their tax bills, I think there'll be potentially more interest. And so having something as a place, and obviously they could probably go to the full Altadena Library Board of Trustees meeting as well. But so, I can see a reason to have it. I guess partly I was also asking because our term is coming up.
Mhm.
And maybe there are people who would be more interested in what the next phase is, who might want to do this. And I think, having a relationship with the town council is important, for the two-way communication. And it sounds like from what was in the packet, when the Measure A sunsets, that might be a time when you would want community members back on this committee if you were resetting the rate to include the ongoing services. Is that
Right.
okay? So, if you take a 2-year hiatus from having community members, I think you're still going to want them back sometime in 2024. But if you're foreseeing a minimal amount of time, I don't know that it hurts to have community members. I guess the question is, if Amy and I rolled off, what kind of response would you get if you said, "Hey, who wants to join this committee?"
Yeah, and then say to do what, and that therein lies the problem. Part of it was like, okay, if you do roll off, great. I mean, thank you for your time to attract new community members to get involved. And it would be even more obscure than it was when both of you joined.
Well, I
Well, wait.
just also have one piece of info. So I'm currently on the Altadena Town Council, but I'm not running for a second term because my job at Occidental College is so crazy for the next year that I just can't dedicate the time. So if you did want to have someone who's a community member, but also on the council, on the CFD, as a liaison between the two groups, because I sort of thought of myself as having those two hats.
Mhm.
I won't be on the council again until I run when I can actually do the work that's required. But there will be, there's always new people coming onto the council. So there might be interested individuals that are on the current council or who will be voted in that might be folks who would want to continue, even if it were in a more limited format, just so there's some continuity with the council and things like that. And I do believe that the Victoria Knapp, who is the vice chair of the council, has reinstated the education committee of the Altadena Town Council. So she is vice chair, so she's got a lot on her plate, but she might be a person alongside that committee who might have a real interest in these projects, right? Because of, thinking about the libraries as part of the larger educational mission of the community. Just a thought.
Amy, I think it's a good point. And I wonder, so you guys wanted an odd number of people, and so you did 3. I wonder if having 1 for this 2-year kind of interim before the service stuff comes back with Measure A rolling off, then maybe that one person being the liaison with the town council, you still have your odd number and that link.
That's not a bad recommendation. Again, this comes out of being want to be respectful of everyone's time. There will be a lull, but like I said, when the sunset does occur, when we have to realign, then there'll be obviously more interest. And Amy, to your point about having that connection with the town council may make sense.
Mm-hmm.
We can modify accordingly, perhaps, and make that some have a liaison from town council. They can choose amongst themselves who's been the liaison. Would that make sense? Without being exclusive to saying we're only picking them, but I think that would, I think we could technically make that decision. It still represents the community, and because the town council does represent the community as a whole.
Right. And I mean, I guess what could be interesting going forward is because if Bob Lucas is the branch that's being constructed first, and then the main library, there's different census tracts on the council, and it might be interesting to think about talking to the council and saying, well, you might want to, there might be someone on the council who would like to participate in this committee, but maybe someone from that census tract or a census tract near the Bob Lucas Library would be a good option, just because that's where the work is going to be happening. It's going to be very visible. That branch will be closed. So it might be that folks from that are closer to that census tract would be maybe fielding these questions anyway from the community. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thought. I mean, do you think that we'd be better served to let, just say to the town council, we would like a representative on a go-forward basis to be a liaison and be an active member, participating member, voting member of this body, and let them decide who they want to. We can give them recommendations, like you said, based on geography.
Yeah.
That coincides with the schedule of remodeling.
Yeah. No, I think letting them make a decision seems right to me.
Yeah.
Because there is an executive committee of 5, but the council is actually quite large. So there may be other members who are very excited about participating in this.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, Terry, I'm not sure you've been listening or not. I mean,
Well, yeah, I apologize. I apologize for not hearing the conversation because my computer literally blew up and I'm still trying to figure it out. But yeah, those all sound like really good ideas. I missed a lot of it, but I do see a trend toward keeping some function of what we're doing alive with the community, with the citizens, to make sure that we have proper oversight going forward. I was really of the opinion that we might want to end the committee as it is right now, maybe make it an ad hoc committee instead of a permanent committee. There's a difference to us in that we can have fewer people on board and so on, and then expand it back to have citizen members when the time is appropriate. I think you're talking about the same thing, just with a different timeline.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I think, Terry, I think we may have found a path forward, and that would be to change the current structure of the committee to, rather than having 3 community members, have a representative from the elected town council of Altadena, and let them decide who they would want. And then the other part of it would be to determine the frequency that we want to meet. I had stated earlier, while you were dealing with your technical issues, that we were going to keep the quarterly, but not necessarily meet, just to have it as a placeholder. Or we could, I'm fine making it every 6 months. It doesn't make a difference to me, because I don't think that we would meet that frequently anyway. So but I'll defer to you, Terry. Well, first of all, do you concur with the 1 representative from the town council? And then if so, we could ask them and have them assign a representative. And then secondly, then it's the frequency in which this committee will meet.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to have the town council involved with this, and then to match up the census tracts the way that you talked about is a good way to go. So they're directly impacting their local community. So I think that'd be great. In terms of the timing, I'm thinking not more than once a quarter for sure. Twice a year sounds a little sparse to me, so not sure what it would be.
Right. Well, I mean, you could keep it on the calendar for once a quarter and say, whoever is nominated by the town council indicate such that, right now it's going to be a little quiet. It's set for once a quarter, but more likely to meet once, probably no more than twice a year for the first 2 years. Then it'll start getting busier in 2 years' time. But at least there'll be transparency of this committee through town council, which represents all residents.
Well, the whole idea behind this committee, other than planning and so on, was to make sure that we were transparent about the money, how much we were getting, where it's coming from, how we're going to spend it, et cetera. And I think it continues to be a vehicle for that. So now you're honing in on the areas that will be affected. I think that's really a good move.
It would also be my suggestion that it be maintained as a standing committee, because ad hoc, we don't post to the website, we don't post the video. And I do think this is like what we're covering should be something that is agendized and readily available to people that are interested in the kinds of things I'm sharing.
I think you almost have to.
Amy and Kim, do you think, do you know people who express interest on the town council to do this sort of thing, or are we back to just going with an appointment process? Because your terms are ending. I think you probably talked about that already. I mean, you essentially have 1 meeting left before it's over for you. Yeah. Do you know folks that are interested?
Well, I would suggest, I haven't talked to anybody specifically about it, but Victoria Knapp, who is the vice chair of the council's executive committee now. She's reinstated the education committee of the Altadena Town Council. So whether she has the time or energy to do it, I don't know, because vice chair, there's a lot that she does to keep things running smoothly, but maybe a member who's interested in the education committee, you know, maybe that would be one place to start. Or you could just reach out to the executive committee of the council. There are 5 members. Veronica Jones is the chair and Victoria is the vice chair, to see if they might just have a conversation with the council to solicit members who might be interested.
Mm-hmm.
And there may be members who are from that area around the Bob Lucas Library who would be interested in participating. I don't know, but there are people who are rolling off the council, or there's election in November. So there will be other potentially new council members also coming on board who might be very interested in doing this type of work. I don't know.
Okay,
So I might just talk to the executive council, reach out to the chair and the vice chair, and then maybe leave it to them. But knowing that the education committee has been reinstated, I think that's, you know, maybe that's one place to start as a suggestion. But there's a lot of great people on the council who are pretty energized.
okay.
I think it should be that we don't do an application process, but rather have town council appoint a liaison.
Yes, that's what I think. Yeah, we're on the same page there.
I would agree with that.
I agree too. So I wasn't sure, is this a action item today? And do you need a motion or something, or how are we
Yes,
going?
yes, we do. So we're just trying to piece this together here. So yeah, I think as far as Nikki, the term, or excuse me, the frequency that we meet is already set right now. It's still quarterly, and we can always cancel if necessary. So there's no action required there.
Right.
So the only action now is the elimination. Motion would be to the elimination of 3 community members from the CFD. Second would be then to include an appointee of the Altadena Town Council at their discretion to serve as a voting member of this committee. I think it covers everything.
Nikki, just a thought on that, is you expressed that it should be a standing committee going forward instead of an ad hoc committee, which means that 3 members are about as low as we can go in terms of having a quorum and so on for voting.
Well, no, the budget committee is only 2 trustees. So not that we wouldn't have to have 3.
Okay.
But that's something that when in December, whoever becomes president, they would appoint people and designate this as a standing committee. So that'll all happen in December anyway.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
So, Rushmore, did you want to say that appointment is a 2-year term, because we might be reviewing the community membership of the CFD in 2024?
I think I don't know that I would make it a term. I think that it's because the town council is not going anywhere. I just think it's until this committee says otherwise. Because we always want a representative from town council, no matter who's there. Just because Amy's leaving, we can, for example, we had to find somebody new for a 2-year time frame. I think it should be in perpetuity, and whoever they decide who's going to participate, they're having an appointee.
All right, and then when we get to that Measure A roll-off time, you're saying that appointment stays, but then we might add some additional community members.
Correct.
Okay,
exactly.
Sounds good.
Okay, so that's the motion. I don't think I need to restate it, do I, Nikki? I think I stated it. Or enough.
We'll capture it for the minutes.
Okay. So may I've introduced a motion. May I get a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry, Terry, you have to say that.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
So and I guess I want to try to repeat the motion back so that I'm completely understanding it as well.
Okay. All right. So the
we would-
motion is that the CFD committee hereby would eliminate the 3 community member positions, and in turn would add one representative from the Altadena Town Council at their discretion to serve as a voting member. No time limit. I don't use the word time limit. So there's no time limit. And that's the motion that was introduced.
Okay, that works. So that's the motion. Is there anybody like to make that motion? I can do that when I just repeated it.
Just call for a second.
So the motion's been placed on the floor, right? Did someone move to do that? Is that right?
I just moved it, so Nate, if you ask for a second.
Okay, gotcha.
I second it.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll take a quick vote, a verbal vote. Member Lyford,
Aye.
Member Kenny,
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes,
Aye.
and it's an aye for me as well for Andrews. Okay, thank you. That's a very good disposition for all that. Thanks for all of your thoughtfulness and comments, everybody.
So just so everyone is aware, the next meeting is supposed to happen in the beginning of December. I'll keep an eye on if it makes sense to bring the group together to share information or cancel, but I'll keep you updated. If we don't meet, I would like to publicly thank both Amy and Kim for helping us out these last 2 years. I know at times, especially last year, hiring the bond issuance team was a lot of work. So thank you guys so much for taking the time and helping us get those bonds issued and the ball rolling forward on these amazing renovations.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. Everybody did a remarkable job. Thank you so much for your time. I know it was a bit of a drudge at times and it was really hard work at others, but all held together, and I really appreciate your commitment to this whole project. I will send you, Nikki, you want me to send an email to Jim Vitale to let him know what's going on? Or make a call to him? I can do that if you'd like.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, I think it needs to come from us, and we appreciate his time. He didn't show up that much, but when he did, he had a good voice, so that was good. All right, so we're down to announcements and planning, future agenda items, and I think our plate's pretty full. Is there anything that anybody wants to add for a future agenda?
None by me.
All right, well, with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Okay.
Second.
Second, and seeing no opposition, we will call this meeting at an end on 4:01 p.m. And I'm so sorry, everybody, to have those computer issues. I'll try to get those fixed for next time.
No worries. No worries.
Thanks.
Amy, Kim, thank you. Nice working with you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Bye.